We're covering chair sitting and the skills we have to learn. And I am repeating myself because some of these points bear repetition. We've had hundreds and hundreds of hours of sitting with the bad habits, and we need to think about many times what is a good habit. Now, one good habit is to know where are the hip bones, the hip joints, and rock forward and back from the hips. Now, this is one way to move in a chair. It's very functional. Because we wear belts and we think there's a division between the belt above and beneath, we tend to move from the low back and bend from the low back. And this is not good movement, it's not good posture. Bending from the hips, if you want to lean forward at the desk, involve your hips. You can bend the back, move the back too, but don't keep the pelvis immobile and the hips immobile. You want the hip joints part of what you do. So there's a little movement called the Swan dive, where you lean forward from the hips and you kind of like dive into the water, and then you bring your wings out and arch. So you keep the low ribs down and you arch from here, open here. And you walk the sitting bones behind. It happens automatically. Pushes the low ribs down, opens the chest, spreads the arms, walks the sitting bones behind. It's a wonderful movement to do every time you sit, practically. Just a little gesture like this, and then come up to sitting, and you feel nicely supported and nicely stacked. So there's a lot of little tricks like this. What do you do in sitting? How can you make it better? There's a thing called Zen Circles, where you think of the spine going in a circle. And then you make the circles very small, smaller, 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 until you can hardly notice the movement. And you're moving a tenth of an inch around the axis of the spine. What this means is you're learning to have a spine that is sensitive, can do small, relaxed movement, so it's not a spine that's going to be holding stiff and straight like a pen, like a tree. And when you do the Zen circles of the spine, you don't want to do it from the low back. Most people will have the pelvis immobile, and they'll do the low back only, like this. And what you want to do is involve the sitting bones and the pelvis. This is working with your base of support with the spine, connecting the spine to the pelvis and the head. For some people, this right away corrects the stoop posture, because the missing piece for many people when they have stoop posture, it's not the neck muscles, it's not the eyes, it's not the tongue, it's not anything else except the pelvis doesn't know what to do to support the head. But if you do like this, these Zen circles, you begin to connect it. And this comes from the tradition of Zen meditation. It's a very good way to begin meditation. The next major point about chair sitting is to understand, once again, this is a repetition, but the hypnosis of the back never turning. So we sit in a chair, we think this is how we are, and how we work, and how we interact with the world. So we think the only time in life that we have permission to turn the shoulders is in a yoga class, spinal twist. We should do this many times a day, twisting and turning. And I want to tell a story, quick story. I was giving a class at a retirement home, and there was a little old lady in the back of the room with an attendant and she was in a wheelchair, and she was stooped like this. And I said, today we're going to talk about turning the head, turning the body. And she raised her hand and said, I can't turn my head. And I said, why can't you turn your head? I had a neck fusion. And she was angry. She was looking up. She couldn't lift her head. So I said, well, you can turn your shoulders. And she didn't understand what I meant. I had to walk over to her, gently put my hands on her shoulders, and show her that she could turn her shoulders like this. And as she was slumped like this, and I turn the shoulders slowly, she starts to straighten. Her mouth goes open. She looks around in astonishment. She's up, looking around. She's no longer trapped in this neck fusion stoop in the wheelchair. Nobody told her that she had permission to turn her body and shoulders and get erect posture by turning. When you turn, you straighten. So that was like showing the depth of the hypnosis that people have, that this is how we have to be our whole life. Straight ahead, never twisting. Stacked, shoulders over hips, square. Because we go into a house, square rooms, flat floor, so we think we're square. We're not. We're spiral. We're meant to dance and move and play and have all these connections. And that is the way to have good posture, to understand things organically like that. In fact, every bone in the body is spiral. Every muscle is spiral. Every good movement has a spiral component. The ribs are built to fold diagonally, like this. The shoulder and hip come together. When you walk, that's what happens. It's a diagonal folding. This is how the ribs should be able to move all the time. Diagonal folding. What happens to that when you sit in a chair with a backrest? Never. You lose it. And you walk the rest of your life, you walk with a stiff chest. The arms may swing, but you don't have that beautiful suppleness of the ribs folding, which you would see it if you were to go to National Geographic TV channel and watch the native culture women walk. It was beautiful, elegant, connected, walk, tall. Why don't we have it in the West? Because we sit in chairs. That's why. We sit in chairs, and and it brings me up to the point of meditation. I have to talk a little bit about meditation because I've done that for so many years with trouble and pain, and I had to learn all these things that I've said and more. Get out of pain. When you sit in meditation, which is a motionless posture, you want to sit still and you want to relax. But if you're sitting still without having a good foundation, without understanding the basics of sitting posture, meditation posture becomes artificial, holding, and it becomes a matter of willpower. I have to sit up straight or I slump, and that's not good, so I better sit up straight again. And you have that battle. People fight this battle for 30, 40 years, and finally they give up. And they'll say, I can't meditate anymore. I have a headache. I have chest pain. I have spinal fusion, and I have to meditate lying down. And I ask them to show me, how do you sit to meditate? And their tailbone is tucked under. Their knees are together. They stiffen the chest. They pull the shoulders back, and they keep pulling them back. They stiffen the neck and chest to have everything level. And they sit like this for years on end, twice a day, for an hour a day. I did that for some years. It's crazy making. You need to have the knees apart, the hips a little higher than the knees. Walk the sitting bones behind, shoulders over the hips, the four spinal curves, tailbone suspended, a hard flat surface. Correct head forward posture, doing whatever you have to do. This is the basic baseline of meditation, chair sitting. If you're going to meditate in a chair, sitting motionless, for heaven's sake, for hours on end, you have to know the skill of chair sitting. You have to know the skill of chair sitting, because on the floor, it is very different. On the floor, with a little bit of vigilance, you can sit up straight. If you're sitting cross-legged on the floor, you can't even fall over if you wanted to. I mean, you're erect. And so it takes just a little vigilance to sit up straight. So if you say to somebody, be vigilant in your meditation posture, sit up straight, that makes perfect sense if you're on the floor. If you're in a chair, it makes no sense at all, because people take that advice and stiffen. And they stiffen for a lifetime. Like that. Thinking they're meditating. Stiffen, meditate, stiffen, meditate. Touch the back. That's the back of most meditators that I've seen. The basics about chair sitting posture apply to meditation, but even more so because you have no movement at all. And so yes, vigilance is necessary in meditation posture, but if you're thinking of chair sitting posture, instead of the word vigilance, take the word skill. I have to learn the skill of chair sitting. The material presented here is for information only. It summarizes the main tools that I have personally used for about 25 years as a Feldenkrais teacher. I've worked with many clients with serious medical issues and other people, and I've found these ideas are safe and simple. They're effective, but common sense dictates that you need your doctor's permission. If you have any questions, if there's any pain, you shouldn't do a movement. You should always be gentle, go slowly. If you have any doubt about the safety of a movement, respect that and don't do it. You can see a professional teacher of movement, an Alexander or Feldenkrais teacher. These people are very good. They've studied posture for a lifetime. You can trust them, and they can look at you, and in a glance, they can tell you what is going on in your body and what you need to do particularly to help yourself. And this can save you many years of futile effort and struggling, doing everything or trying to accomplish something you don't really need to accomplish in the way of posture. When you have a professional, experienced person looking at you and you follow their advice, it can save you lots of effort and time.